Hey everybody, it's Eric with What's in the Box Horror, and today we're going to do another Texas AuthorCon interview, and we have Andrew Alonso with us.
Hello.
Hey, thanks for joining.
Thanks
Um,
for having me.
this is a fun event that we're doing, and we're getting the interviews out of the way, letting people kind of meet the writers before they come to the event, because everybody wants to kind of get an idea. Luckily, we have 2 days at this event, so people will have plenty of time to walk around and see everything and go to panels and meet all the authors and spend time, um, you know, checking out their books and getting to know them. But this will give us a peek into everything. And the first question we always ask, Jason, Michael, or Freddie? Who's your favorite?
I'm gonna have to go with Jason 100%.
Okay,
Personally.
great. That is the correct answer. So that's how I believe. I think it is too.
Oh
I
yeah,
love
I got a
Jason. I just
million
love him.
reasons for that. Yeah, definitely Jason. Do I list them off?
I was gonna say is what's funny is when I first came up with the questions, what I did was I said, Jason versus Michael, because that's the iconic one you always see online. Is everybody's always Jason or Michael, and
Mhm.
Freddie wasn't even a part of the discussion, even though he is, technically part of that trilogy.
It's probably because of the ethereal nature, like the dream aspect,
Mhm.
whereas those two are actually physically there most of the time, instead of having to be pulled out of like a bed or something.
Right. And so what's funny though is the first three or four people we asked, they always would say, well, if I could, I'd pick Freddie. So then we added Freddie. And then once we started adding Freddie to the question,
Nobody
then
picks
we
it.
started getting more Jason.
Yeah.
I think we've only gotten two Michaels so far, which is funny because he's so popular and the series is so popular. I'm always surprised that Michael hasn't been getting more love, but 100% to me, it's Jason. And I think it's because no matter what Jason movie you're watching, even the most ridiculous one,
Right.
they're all fun and enjoyable, and the entire catalog
Oh yeah.
is a fun trip the whole way. With
Oh yeah.
Freddie, in my mind, it's one and three, and then everything else you could kind of shoot off into the sun and it doesn't matter. But
Mhm.
one and three are masterpieces in my mind. Those are some of the best horror movies. I mean, those are what I grew up on.
Right.
But and I think the other thing that really shines for Freddie is that you know, he is speaking and the other two don't speak. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
everybody kind of connects with that sarcasm and that the way
Right.
he is, and everybody loves the actor.
Right. Oh
I
yeah.
mean, nobody else can be Freddy Krueger. Nobody else can do that.
I
And
try.
they,
I tried to get into the 2010 remake. You
I was
know,
gonna say, yeah, I haven't even
it
seen it. I
was.
refuse to watch
You
it.
haven't seen it?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so it definitely took itself a lot more seriously than say the the ones that you want to shoot off into the sun. but it just didn't feel like a Nightmare on Elm Street film. But a lot of times, because people forget that the first one especially was not campy or
Oh
funny.
yeah, not funny at
It was
all.
terrifying,
Hmm.
and they tried to do that with this one. I don't know. I feel like, yeah, there was something missing from the remake that Robert Englund brings to every performance. But yeah, no, I agree. As soon as they start getting past part three, like, okay, once you start, killing people with a Nintendo Power Glove, like, things are kind of
And I
going.
get it. And I love those funny kills. I like the Roach
Yeah,
Girl. I liked, there are aspects of four and five that are good.
right.
But if you watch it today,
Hmm.
you can see how MTV it is. And so
Oh
when it was cutting edge at the time,
yeah.
it falls a little flattered today.
I think it's
And then
part of the
this,
zeitgeist for the time. So many zany
mhm.
things are going on in horror or in, like, and then I think it's like Scream came in and kind of like rebooted it. And it's like, hey, look, you know what? If you're going to have fun with it, at least have fun with it in a smarter way than we're
Yeah.
doing it now.
And
Uh,
you know what? And what do we have in common with that? We have
Wes
Craven.
Craven.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, every time that horror got off the rails,
Mhm.
it's almost Wes Craven himself coming in and saying, "Hey, wait a minute,
Let's
let me
fix.
put this back where it needs to be."
Course correct. I mean,
So,
no, Jason got some pretty creative and fun installments as well. Like, I mean, even
yeah,
going into space, I enjoyed that.
yeah, and that's funny because it's so campy and insane, but you can still enjoy it, and that's what I kind of like. And the remake, I really like the remake. I think they did a really good job with the
The
remakes.
2009 one.
Yeah, when they did
Yeah.
Friday the 13th with Michael Bay as the producer, and I
Yes.
mean,
Okay.
I
Yeah.
thought, I mean, they changed a few things, but as overall as a movie, if that was going to be a jumping off point for a new franchise, a new series, I'm okay with it. I would have been happy
The
to sit down and watch more.
the new Crystal Lake show.
Mhm.
I don't know what's going on with that, but that I'm excited about that. I don't know if it's going to have him or if it's going to be about Pamela or what. But if
Yeah, I
they have
don't know.
Jason in that show with the hockey mask in full Jason mode, oh,
Yeah.
um,
And that's kind of just going to stink because if they don't, if it's Jason as a child before the accident,
yeah,
then that's going to take away from it because she doesn't really go crazy until Friday the 13th. So then what
right
are we
until
going
he's
to be
already
here?
taken
So
care of.
I agree with you. You need Jason, you need a grown Jason, and I prefer hockey mask. I don't mind cloth head, sack over the face. I think
Right.
that's a fun character too.
Oh man, I
But
have got some funny stories for you about that guy. That'll have to be off the camera. So
oh, okay. I was gonna say, okay, this is cool. So yeah, I'm totally with you. I love Jason, and so the next thing we always slide into vampires or werewolves.
oh hell, I love both equally. My two newest sculptures are vampires and werewolves, and I usually try to shy away from those particular because of the classic nature. I want to do something different, but like I did a different spin on them. If I had to pick, oh man, if I had to pick one like just a millimeter over the other, I'm gonna have to go with vampires, but not the Anne Rice like Twilight sparkly vampires. I'm talking
Mhm.
about like the even uglier than the 30 Days of Night vampires. Like the not sexy, more down and dirty, evil, hungry, feral, beastie vampires.
Maybe kind of like the vampires in Blade 2, or
Even worse than that.
even
I
yeah,
like my vampires hideous and disheveled and horrific and almost mindless. you know, yeah.
yeah. So almost a force of nature, not really,
Yes.
whatever that weird.
Anytime that you anthropomorphize something that grotesque, I mean, it's human nature to identify with something because you're anthropomorphizing. But
Mhm.
it's like, no, I wanna look at my vampires and think I need to run away from that, not try to understand it, not try to reason with it.
Or
And
date it.
like the Michael Myers thing,
Yeah,
he can't be reasoned with or stopped or talked down from killing someone.
yeah,
Maybe I
yeah.
should have took Michael. Actually, no, I'm
Well,
kidding.
you say that, but yeah, but I think, and what's amazing, you are the first person to even take, I think, a second to think about it because
Oh,
usually it's one or the other, and there's no question for the people we have talked to.
oh,
And so I think that's really cool because I think you're right. I think it really does take into account the kind of, which one you're talking about.
right.
Most people, so what kind of werewolf are you? Do you like it like the Wolfman? Are we talking like that? Or are we talking more like they turn into full
I'm
wolves and that
I'm
kind of
thinking more American Werewolf in London, but in the forest and
thing? Mhm.
hideous and yeah,
Maybe kind of like Dog Soldiers.
I've never seen it or
Oh,
read it. If it's a book, I don't
it
know.
is a movie that came out. It's a low budget movie.
Okay,
Have you
okay,
ever seen The Descent?
yeah, yeah,
Okay, so that guy before he did Descent, he did Dog Soldiers, and
okay,
it is a movie about guys in the woods that are on they're like reservists over in
okay,
England,
uh-huh,
and they're just doing their weekend thing,
uh-huh.
and they run into werewolves.
Okay, I gotta watch it now for
Yeah,
sure.
this is a movie that it's a fun movie. And it definitely it's you'll recognize every actor in it.
Okay.
It's one of those things where it's a lot of people that have become somebody
At the
famous,
time, it was like
right?
maybe
But at the time they're low budget,
I
they
love
got
the
lucky.
suspense. That was so now you hooked me with just that, because if
Yeah.
that guy made that, I can only imagine what this one must be like. So
Yeah, he's one of my favorites. So I want, try and watch all of his stuff. But luckily, I saw it. It was one of those things that I guess because Don and I did a show about it because because there's also a book that's all about behind the scenes of it. So
okay,
she read the book and we talked about that, and then we watched the movie and talked about it.
nice.
And oh, what was I going to say with that? Dang it, just lost my train of thought. So
The behind the scenes
yeah,
book.
I don't know what I was going to go with it, but yeah, no, it's a really cool thing, and it's really fun, and it's like I said, it's low budget, so you're not looking at CGI kind of stuff. It's
Right.
all practical, and that's
Sometimes,
really my
yeah,
favorite
that's the
thing.
best thing sometimes.
Yeah,
When
for
when
sure.
you have to put it in the camera, that means you got to get creative. And
Mhm.
that is, yeah, that's beautiful. As long as it's done well.
Yeah. So speaking of movies, What was your favorite horror movie as a kid?
Oh man. Okay, so that's where I am gonna have to like really give it even more thought. I'm gonna have to say this might be controversial to some. Aliens is
Yeah.
more of an action film to some people, but to me, as a 4-year-old, that was
Hmm.
horror.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna have to go with Aliens, and then after that, Hellraiser. My parents were really cool in that regard. I watched all the horrible stuff when I was like,
Well, I'll tell you that's another theme in these interviews is that almost every person's parents allowed them to watch horror movies at a very ridiculously young
oh yeah.
age.
I
And
let my
so
son watch. He was watching the same stuff I was when he was younger than I watched it, and he turned out great.
yeah, and I think you're 100% correct. Aliens is an incredible horror movie. I
Yeah,
mean, of course, if you take the original, then you have the haunted house in space,
right.
100% horror.
Only
Um,
reason I didn't list that one was because I wasn't alive yet. I'm only 41, so I missed it by just a couple minutes. Otherwise, I would have picked Alien.
yeah, and what's funny is my dad hates horror movies and wouldn't watch them, but Alien and The Thing constantly on, and he
Oh,
pushed those, and so I saw those at a very early age. Because he's always like, "Oh, you got to see the scene," and the thing bursts out of the chest, or
oh,
the on The Thing, the chest opens and takes the guy's hands, and the head runs off and everything. And so
uh-huh.
I was
Mhm.
introduced to stuff like that at an early age, and those are amazing because especially I can remember when Aliens came out, and I remember because I wasn't old enough to really go see it in the theater, but I remember when it premiered on
Oh,
HBO, and we went over to a friend's house and watched it, and it was like a big event, and it was yes horrific. I couldn't
oh,
imagine being that when you take this the fear of the original Alien and then ramp it by 1,000 because there's so
yeah.
many aliens running around.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's
It was
tremendously fearful, and the whole idea of how hopeless the situation is for the characters. So
so you hit it on the head right there in terms of the I mean, in my opinion, I don't know how you feel about this. You could obviously hopefully tell me. So I believe that horror is only really as good as the characters that are put in these horrific situations. And Jim Cameron, I mean, it's Jim Cameron, so he's a brilliant strategist in terms of not just plotting his stories, but then the development of them, all the characters and everything that he makes. Like I don't know that I would have cared about the people's lives even at that age if they weren't as real and authentic as they were.
mhm.
And because I do remember seeing it in the theaters when I was a kid, just looking at the poster, I can still remember standing in line looking at the poster, that jet black with the aliens sign, and then walking out of the movie and just like not wanting to be anywhere dark for like days and days and days. And then when the VHS came out, I remember I wouldn't even go into the same room that the VHS was in because I was afraid the alien was going to try to kill me.
And that's powerful right there, and that's exactly what we're looking for here. We're looking for that because that's the connection you get.
Yeah.
I think all of the people that enjoy horror are big into it and starting to produce stuff within the genre. We all have that moment of something that scared the tar out of us and really made us get
Fires it all, you know? Yeah.
yeah. So
100%.
as an adult, is that still your favorite, or do you have a new favorite, or
Oh yes, Aliens. I think will always be my favorite. In fact, most people who you may not even know me, but after a couple of days of maybe seeing me on social media or something like that, they'll just automatically associate me with Alien or Aliens. Like I love that series. That is by far that film and Alien. Now that I am an adult, and I have seen it. Alien is the number one as an adult. I would have to say for a plethora of reasons, but um aside from that, boy, as goofy as it sounds, I'm gonna have to go with Tales from the Crypt Demon Knight.
oh, that's great. Yeah. No,
That's one of my
I'll
other
tell you that.
favorites.
It's the first time I've heard that on in the interview series. And that's exactly what's so amazing and fun about being a horror fan is that there's so many different movies that you could choose from,
Oh yeah,
and they're not all serious, and they're not
right.
all going to be, you know,
Art.
they're not going to all everybody's not going to have the same favorite. And I think that's fun. I think it's great when people jump out. Um I've got Bordello of Blood. I just got that recently as a collector's edition. And the next one I plan on getting is that one right there, the one you just said.
You know what? At the show, maybe I'll bring one of the keys I make. I make a prop replica display, a light up display of the key from Demon Knight. Maybe I'll
All
have it.
right. Yeah, very cool. Because I saw it in the theaters, but I haven't seen it since. And so I
Oh,
know I want to see it again.
Oh,
But
it's
that's what I
still
said. I just got Bordello of Blood to get to, to watch that. And once I finished it, I thought, well, maybe Father's Day I'll ask for something like, get the other one. Because they just started putting out really cool collector's editions on these Blu-ray
oh yeah,
stuff. And I like the behind the scenes stuff. I love watching all the documentaries and all that.
that's my jam, 100%. I'm with you there. Just learning about how all of this stuff even came to be,
Hmm.
always fascinating to me. I never get tired of hearing of that stuff.
And that's the other thing. You're like, oh, well, I spent $20 and I got this movie 2 hours. And now I have 12 hours of all this extra credit. You know what I mean? I'm like, okay, now it's worth the extra bucks
Oh
because
yeah, and
with
you
all
get
the
to
other
hear
stuff.
what the director's thinking, the
Hmm.
actors are thinking at the time, any funny
Yeah.
stories or anecdotes. I love that stuff.
That's always great when when they really go behind. Sometimes they give you like a producer that nobody ever heard of, and it's all money talk, and you're like, oh, this sucks. But then every once in a while, man, when they get the director and like the star and
Oh
maybe
yeah,
one secondary person or maybe the director of photography or whatever, and they have different stories too. Yeah, you're right. It's like mining gold, and it's
oh yeah,
just so much fun.
it is. Yeah,
Um,
just reeling in all the information.
yeah, and that's what I've stopped. I'll stream most of the movies if they're new, but if I really like a movie, I definitely try and find the collector's edition or one of those really cool sets that they put out so that you
Right.
can get all the special stuff. Sometimes
Yeah.
you have to wait 10 to 15 years though, because they won't do it until
Oh
they're
yeah.
celebrating it. So, but that's
Uh,
kind of cool too. It's really
like
cool to be able to go back and find a movie 20 years old and then get all this information and kind of
and they
rediscover
probably
it.
touch it up too.
Oh
Like
yeah, nothing better than a touched up
stuff. Yeah.
movie from the 80s or 70s. Yeah, for sure.
100%.
So, the next thing we always dive into is um, if you were going to, is kind of a mixture of it. I've noticed that the question hasn't worked as well as we'd hoped. The original question is this:
Intrigued.
if you were going to meet somebody or not meet somebody, but say somebody comes up to you and says, hey, I want to get into horror, what book would you suggest? And every time we ask that question, we always get this really long answer saying, well, it really depends on what the person's looking for. And then, but kind of what I'm thinking is what's your favorite horror novel and the one that you want to hand off to people and say, hey, you need to read this if you want to get into horror. What kind of book would that be?
So I got two answers. One of them is horror. The other one, not so much. I don't think, but I think it's horror.
Okay.
I would say Peter Benchley's Jaws, and
Oh,
then
I love
I
that
would
book.
say,
Oh, look.
dude, you I like you. All right, so Peter Benchley's Jaws, or oh man, I'm gonna have to go with Stephen King's It, personally.
You know
But
what? That's come up more than once, and that's a big book too. Can
it's
you
the
imagine handing somebody today? Here's 1,000 pages.
you know, I would say, that's, hey, writers write and read, readers read. I would say, you know what, you want horror, read this, because it's so much more than that.
Mhm.
But so is Jaws, for that matter. But Jaws is terrifying in its own way, but it's in a way that we can't really relate to from a human standpoint. Like, we're really watching the exploits of this elemental force doing its thing, and it's more like, God, I would hate to be, Chrissy Watson, or who, any of these other people being attacked by this thing. Whereas with it, you get so many more layers to the terror. You're growing up with these people, and you're watching them live their lives, and think that they're safe after all this trauma, and then it comes back, and then they die. Some of them die, some of them don't, and I don't know. It's just a great story. Great, amazing story. I love it.
Yeah, and to get to the Jaws, I totally agree with Jaws, and I think the great thing about Jaws is how different the book is from the movie.
Vastly, yeah, to 100%. I think, in fact, that if they actually had made it more like the movie, or more like the book, it would have been even better in a lot of ways. The mafia tie-in with the mayor, and then the Hooper and Mrs. Brody whole dynamic thing, I think would have been fantastic. But I don't know if we'll ever get that. But as far as I'm aware, Spielberg is like, over my dead body, we're never getting another Jaws or something like that.
Well, yeah, and I'm thinking now that they're putting the Meg out and they're getting so much success with that over the top kind of story,
Yeah,
I just can't see them going back to Jaws. I mean, and I think it's because maybe, and I always pray that they don't mess with the classics. But I think Jaws is darn near perfect as a movie,
yeah.
and I don't want to see a remake of that. But I would love to see, like you said, a remake of an actual, maybe a true adaptation of the book. Because as an adult, when I read it, I think the horror isn't just in the shark, it's in his life unraveling and all the other
That's
things
true.
going on. And
Yeah, I
so I
hadn't thought
can I
about
relate to it so much differently than I would have when I read it originally when I was much younger.
right.
But yeah, and then I know Peter eventually has said that he wished that he
Hadn't written.
didn't
Yeah,
write it because it made the shark the villain, but
yeah. The 70s were rife with fish fish termination, I guess you could say. Yeah, it
I
definitely
think
took its toll on the ecology, I think.
yeah, and I'm a big fan of his. I love his books. I've read I think most of them. There's probably one or two I've missed, but yeah, I've really enjoyed him as a
I've
writer
only
too.
read like three, I think. Jaws, and then White Shark or
Mhm.
Creature, whatever you want to call it, and then Beast. I love Beast. Oh, I love that book.
I think Beast is the one that I have on my bookshelf, but I haven't read. That's the octopus one, right?
Arctoethus ducks, giant squid.
Giant
It's
squid, yeah.
awesome.
Yeah,
God,
so it's on my to-do list. And hopefully maybe I'll convince Donna that that should be one of the books that we read for our normal, discussions on what's in the box. So,
I'd watch
um
that. That would be awesome because it's a
yeah.
good book. Very
Okay,
good.
well then I'm definitely gonna have to push it up the what is it? TBR? The
The
TBR.
rungs.
Yeah,
Oh,
I got to
okay.
get it up to TBR because they keep growing every time. It feels like every day I've got 3 or 4 books added to it, the pile, and I'm not reading fast enough to make the pile go any smaller. Um, so so we're just going to transition right here. We're going to get out of all that stuff, and we're going to talk about the genre that you prefer to write,
You got
and
it.
let's talk about your books.
Okay. All right. Um, so do I just segue into it now? Is this
However you want to do it. However you
okay?
want to do it.
So my preferred genre, obviously horror. Let me rephrase that. I would like to think that it's horror and science fiction. However, most people who do read my book, so far I've only have one, and I'm working on my follow up right now, and then the expanded universe stuff. Sorry, I'm going on like a diatribe here, but
No, that's
the
perfect. That's great. We definitely want all that information. So
okay, awesome. Well, I'll definitely. How much time you got, buddy? No. Okay, so as far as my debut novel, let me put it this way. I think it's a horror science fiction, but most people prefer to call it a genre bender because it doesn't really leave itself to just those two genres. And for the longest time, I had a really difficult time explaining that to people because it has horror, comedy, drama, mystery, romance. It has all these things because the way that I choose to write is, just like in life, even if the subject matter is fantastical or crazy, whimsical, or hyper real, the one thing that we can always rely on to keep the horror or any experience grounded, right, is that reality. There is no only scary time in a situation, or
Mhm,
only science fictiony time. Do you know what I'm saying? Like
mhm.
it's about imbuing the life into the story, and to do that, you have to have funny moments or romantic moments or comical moments. I guess that counts as a funny moment. Forgive me, but
No, they can both
it's
be different because you
but
have
yeah,
the slapstick, and then you have
yes,
subtle comedy that maybe not everybody's going to pick up on. But yeah, I get what you're saying, and they kind of
right,
fall under the same umbrella. So yeah,
gotcha.
no, you know what it sounds like? It sounds like you wrote a book. Sounds
Oh
like
yeah,
you might have written a good book. So somebody that has that idea, you know what I mean, that understands that nothing's worse than the box in that we'll get as a horror writer. You know what I mean?
oh
Because
yes,
in
right.
my mind, everything is horror, right? And so everything has the opportunity. It just takes a tiny turn to take
Right,
any situation and make it horrific.
horrific.
And so, before you get to that tiny turn, you need to be able to provide the reader with something interesting and to
Yeah.
give them a reason to connect with your characters and all that.
Hmm.
And that's what that and just like you said, you're going to need that romance, you're going to need the funny moments.
Yeah.
You need to humanize everything so that you can then, destroy the reader with whatever nonsense you have planned. So,
Yes,
I'm
I
100%
get
with
a
you. I
lot of
totally get that.
a lot of angry people who do not like me sometimes because they'll, oh, I'm reading your book. I can't wait to read your book. And then they get like halfway through something. You son of a bitch. Why did you do that to this person? I'm like, oh, sorry, I didn't do
You
it.
know what? And I think those, as a writer, are some of the best messages you'll get. You know what I
Oh yeah.
mean? because nothing's better than being able to connect with the reader in such an emotional way that you have driven them to contact you to yell at you.
Anger, yeah.
Yes,
Because
I 100% with you.
yeah, it's rewarding,
Mhm.
and I wouldn't trade that experience for anything really. The ability to tell a story and then to have people really gravitate to the people that are being put in harm's way, you know. And I mean, it's it's something that you said something earlier that I want to touch on really quick, which is I really appreciate that sentiment, especially for someone who, like yourself, who has written multiple books at this point, so you know what that feels like on a even bigger scale, I'd imagine, than I do. So for you to be able to say that to me, it means a lot that you would say that, as a writer, one writer to another. I appreciate that, because that is what I always strive to do, which is try to tell a story that's worth telling and that means something to somebody. Because just if you write just to write for the sake of saying that you wrote something, that's not, in my opinion, true writing. Other people might disagree, I don't know. But if you tell a story that is in you, like it has to come out,
Mhm.
right? You have no choice. That is your raison d'etre. It has to come out of you. That, to me, when people respond to that, it means a great deal. Because I'll tell you, the first thing, like, like you said, sounds like I wrote a book. Me personally, I could never say that. What I mean by that is, like, I always get people who are very kind all the time saying really nice things about any of my artwork. And I always say, I'll never say the things that you guys say. Like, I'll never say that I'm those things, but I'll do my best to live up to the really nice things you guys say. You know what I mean? But
No,
with
I'm 100% with you on that. I
yeah,
mean, I'm not going to sit here and blow the trumpet for myself, but I will 100%, take any compliment somebody would like to send my way. I am happy to do that, but no, I'm not doing this for the compliments. I'm doing
yeah,
this, like you
I
said,
love,
because you want to get it out. You need to
yeah,
share it. And I think when people write that way, when somebody's writing to get that idea out of their head, to share, a part of themselves,
yeah.
more times than not, it's a good read. It's a fun read. And you can read the passion in the words, the way it's presented, the way it's done. And of course, you're going to have different levels of
Perception.
yeah, or just you're going to start off doing it and it's going to get better as you do it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
Yeah.
I get that part of it, but you will always be able to read and see the passion,
Mhm.
and so I'm 100, yeah, I'm with you 100%. And I think that's a good way to approach it. Nobody, if you start telling people that you're the best thing ever because that's what you're thinking, I think you stop trying to become the best thing ever.
Oh
And
yeah.
so you've already capped yourself, and that's a disservice to the reader and a disservice to yourself, because like you said, then maybe you're just writing to write, and some of those will fall flat, and then that's how you lose the drive to continue to do this. And
100%. You can't fill a cup that's already full, you
right.
know. And the minute that you stop trying to be better than you were the day before, you might as well just give up. You're 100% right there. I do not believe that there is ever a time when anything is truly mastered. You can
Mhm.
always be better. You can always work a little harder. You can always put in a little bit more time. You can always, do just that much more every single day. Like, I get it, 100%.
Very cool. You know what? And this whole time we've talked, I don't think I've heard the name. So the name of your first book, what is it?
The Leavin.
The Leaving.
It's part of a trilogy, so it's part of what I call the Calla Chronicles.
Hmm.
But the first one is called the Leavin. The second one, the follow up, is called the Glass Knights, and the third one is called the Iprak, Iprak. So it sounds kind of funny when you say it, but it'll all make sense once you
Yeah,
read
and then they're all going to be in that science fiction-y slash horror realm. So kind of, in
somewhere.
the same,
Yeah.
not in the same universe, but in the same vein, maybe, as Aliens and all that kind of stuff. That kind of
Sort of, yes. So
like.
the first one, I would say, is, if we're gonna go about it in the sense that, like, maybe trying to find like similarities, like, it would be the Alien
Mhm.
of the series, right? Very, a little bit more claustrophobic, a little more contained, and then the second book, is more of the world. Like literally, we travel all across the globe, and there's a lot more action, a lot higher stakes. You know, so it's more like the war story versus the survival story, and then the last one is more of a revenge, redemption story. So, but they're all, yes, they all have the same elements.
Well, and I didn't mean to pigeonhole you into that
No,
universe, but
no.
since
I
we had
get it.
discussed it, but
Yeah.
the way it grows, you start off
Yes.
in that dark and, but it's all science fiction. You could 100% say this is science fiction, but then
Oh,
of course you
definitely.
can 100% say it's horror too. So it's got that feel and that vibe to it. And those are fun books. I really like that. And I love the fact that you're on here saying, I have finished book one, I'm working on book two, and let me tell you about book three. So you already had this mapped out. You
Oh
had
yeah.
this idea in your head and out there. So this is one of those fun things where maybe, people come and grab book one, and then they can follow you and they'll grab book two, and maybe you'll have book three. I don't know how you
So
have it planned out date
I
wise.
I also, yeah, I'm a big proponent of making sure that you have a solid plan, not just for the narrative, but for if you're gonna, because we're asking these people to invest hours out of their life, so we have to make sure that we're on our A game in terms of, okay, this has to get done, this has to get done, because they're, I mean, let me put it this way. More often than not, when someone buys book one, I'm, a couple months later, hey, when's the next one? How much longer we got? And I'm like thinking about, oh, I really wish I had launched them maybe at the same time, but I did not. It's coming. However, I do have T-shirts and I have metal prints and art concept for the second book already. So a lot of times, whenever I do a show or something, someone will see a shirt and they'll be like, "Oh," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's actually the villain from the second book that's coming out." And they're like, "Oh wow,"
That's great.
give them
That's
something to
great.
think about.
Hmm.
However, I did actually, and this is kind of funny, today, just today, I made an announcement that I'm the next book to follow up the Leavin is actually a spin-off book. Hear me out. So it's a spin-off book in the same universe, but it takes place after the events of my second in this main trilogy. And the reason why I wanted to do that was because I'm a fan of kind of, I don't take this, I hope you take this the right way. I'm a fan of torturing my readers, but in a good way. So I want them, if they enjoy the series, right? So they want book two. I'm telling them, no, I'm not going to give you that just yet, but I will give you something that happens after so that you have vastly more questions that you want answered. And then you just got to wait. Work for George R. R. Martin. It can work here too, So yeah, that's my strategy. And so far it seems like people are very receptive to it. And I'm very grateful for that. But it was a gamble initially. Like I thought,
It always is, right? You just never
yeah,
know exactly how to do, you never know what's going to work or how it's going to work, but it sounds like you've got a very strong a plan in place, and
oh
that
yes.
and you're
Oh
doing
yeah.
a great job with it. And it sounds interesting. I
Appreciate that.
mean, I love the book that introduces the concept, and then I love the fact that your second book is going to just expand and give us so much more. And that's the
That's the
one thing
plan
that,
anyway.
yeah, right. It's always the plan. It's
Yeah, it's
always the
always the
plan.
plan.
So,
The way I try to explain it to people is uh I am just the vessel, right? My fingers do all the work, but these people, it's like Stephen King said, it's controlled schizophrenia. So I may have something that I want them to do, but at the end of the day, once the pages are once the words are on the pages, they're looking at me like, no, I don't want to do that. I'm going to do this, and then it just works out.
yeah, I'm a pantser, so I know exactly what you're talking about. So
That's, yeah, you
I
get,
outline, but I never fall. I don't think I've ever followed an outline once. It ends up just being very, very rough for that day, maybe.
yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah,
It's just kind of like a thing to kind of
yeah.
look at, and maybe you might make it kind of line up.
I think that what it ends up being now is this is the stuff after I've done. I'm like, okay, well, this is all the stuff I won't be doing. And then I
Right,
just go write something else. And I'd be like, okay, well, at least I got all the dead ends out of the way and spent
right.
hours writing all that stuff down. So,
Yep,
but
yep.
100% with you on that. Now, a question that Donna loves to ask is when you are writing, do you have any music playing or do you need silence?
Oh no, I have to have music. I have to have music, but no other noise whatsoever. Maybe some rain sounds, maybe. But other than that, I do not like a lot of light, and I have to have my door closed, and I don't want it. I don't care if you're dying in the next room. You keep quiet because I'm working.
Yeah, you
It's
don't have a Shining incident, right? He
yeah,
was just trying to write,
yeah.
and so
Yeah,
um,
but I do listen to music. Yes, it depends. Like, so if I'm writing, a sad scene, I'll listen to frickin' Sade or My Chemical Romance or something like that.
mhm.
And then if I need an action scene, it's Metallica, Ride the Lightning, and all kinds of other stuff, AC/DC or something. It depends.
So
But
you're okay with them with vocals?
oh yeah, none of that stuff bothers me really. It's the what I'm really paying attention to is the actual tone of the music.
Hmm.
That's the main thing. I don't when I'm not writing, I'm not a fan of a lot of the music that I listen to when I'm writing, if that makes any sense.
That makes total sense.
Yeah. I just I just need it for that particular moment.
Because sometimes you're tapping in not what you want, but what your character needs, and your character
Exactly.
may be completely different than you. And
Oh
so
yeah.
sometimes you need the music that makes you in that state of
It
mind.
elicits the
Mhm.
mood, right? Because I'm a big fan of I don't know if you how you feel about this. Maybe if you wouldn't mind telling me your opinions on it. But so my thing is, a lot of people will say like, write what you know. I am the opposite. I prefer to write what you don't know, but with copious amounts of research, so that you can learn about it, but still not let your personal biases influence it. Now, I know that there are some writers, like oh, that person reminds me of so and so, or that person for me, it's like, I don't know, if I can identify with them or recognize them in any way, they're gone. I refuse to write someone that I can say, oh, that reminds me of like my cousin or like my friend or whatever. How do you feel about that? Because I know some people feel that way and some people don't.
Well, as a horror writer, I'd like to say I'm not writing exactly what I know because I don't want to, I'm not admitting to anything on camera here,
Uh,
um, but yeah, I know exactly what you're saying, because
yeah.
there are times when I'll be like, I wanted to write a story in my Don Texas series. It takes place um, in a haunted city. It's like a cursed town.
Okay.
And I when I started the series, I thought, what, I'm going to get bored if I just write this chronologically, and I don't want to be pigeonholed. So what I do is I jump around, and so the first one's in 1969, and then it jumps to 1865, and then it goes to 2002, and
Mm.
then we got 1978, and I've got a short story set in 52. But every time I jump, I have to sit down and I have to research and
Oh
research
yeah.
and
Uh-huh.
research and get
Yeah.
everything
No,
right,
absolutely.
and then you can go from there and figure everything out, and it makes it more interesting for me, so I don't get bored with the general idea of the one thing, the
Right.
one note, because now it's taking place in all these different timelines, different
Right.
characters, but
You're
then
building a universe.
right, and then as you read it, you see how everything connects, and it's
Hmm.
fun that way. But yeah, 100%, because there's a lot of things I haven't done that I've written about, and if I limit it to just what I know or who I know, then I'm not going to be writing too much. So
Oh
I'm
yeah.
with you.
So I guess what I meant was not like when I say the write what you know thing, just for clarification, just in case. It's more I'm talking about like drawing from any experiences people wise, character wise. Not
Yeah,
so much.
none of my characters are really based on anybody. I may use a name from somebody I know, but most of
Yeah.
those characters are people that maybe I do know of them. Of
Right.
course you're gonna have some, but I don't
So it's gonna
really.
be something, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's gotta be one note, but most of the time they are of themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They're
I'm
just
100% because the one thing I don't want is I don't want somebody to read my book and come at me and be like, you don't want your brother showing up. I'm like, what the heck, man? I'm in this
uh-huh.
book and it's
Exactly.
100% me. I know it's me. You changed the name from John to, you drop the H in John and that's the character. That's not going to work. So
100%. That's
yeah,
what
no, I get that part of it for sure. But no, when you said that, write what you know. Some people are very like they did X and that's all they'll ever write about is X, and they'll never step outside that zone because they're not comfortable. I
Yes.
have a friend that does that right now. He's like, oh, I wish I would have been in war so that I could write about this experience. Well, you don't have to be in war to write about it.
Yeah.
You can tap into that. And as a writer, hopefully that's what we do is we tap into
That's
the
our job.
imagination and and
Yeah.
and put the words down. But there are some people that have been limited by their imagination, and some of them are still really good writers, and they
Right. No,
they stick
100%.
where they're at and everything else. But then sometimes you can see the limitation of doing that. So yeah, but
Like,
no, I
how do
don't
you
usually
feel?
tap there'll be little things, little nuggets of just sprinkled, but nothing that I've
Right.
never written a specific anything on a person because like you said, you don't want people bouncing back on you. So
It's like, well, it's like you had just said just a second ago, is some people don't like to be in their comfort zone. And I find that when you are not in your comfort zone, that's the most exhilarating part of writing,
mhm.
is when you are uncomfortable. You know, the being uncomfortable, especially if it's a genre such as this, right? It really does help. I feel, in a sense, it helps the entire soul of the book if you are somewhat in a uncomfortable state. Like, I mean, I guess I could say that because like I'm one of those people that's like a natural born uh optimist, like highly caffeinated without caffeine, wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning like ready to climb a mountain. I'm that type. And so it helps, when you're in a miserable state, while you're like, oh god, oh, I gotta do like how many? I got 2,000 words. What time is it? Oh my God, I don't even know what the hell I'm talking about. Oh, okay, we're gonna do this. You draw from your your energy, I guess. I don't know. Does that make sense?
It does. It makes total sense. And I'm the opposite.
Oh,
I am basically streamlining Mountain Dew, and that's how I'm getting to go through my life. And I am not super energetic or anything. So I am envious of you,
oh,
sir, of being able to tap into
don't be, man. I get yelled at most of the time for it.
that.
It's like,
Trust me.
shut up. I haven't had my coffee. Don't talk to me.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you. Yeah. I get it the same way on the opposite end. So I'm more of a night owl and all that stuff. My wife's more like what you explained. What you described. She's more like
Yeah,
that.
it's like, let's go. Let's do it. We
Yeah,
only,
she's very, and especially in the morning. She's a
uh
she's a morning person. I'm a night person. So you know,
I can
it's a
relate.
very odd. We're an odd couple, but it's worked for 25 years. So
Awesome. That's great.
so other than coming to Texas Author Con and buying it at your table, can you give us some ideas of where we can get your stuff?
Oh, sure. So you can get my book on my website, or you can go to barnesandnoble.com, Walmart, Books a Million, I don't know, like up till recently, Target. Um,
Amazon?
oh, yeah, yeah, definitely Amazon.
Just throwing it out there. I didn't know.
Yeah, no,
Maybe you
I
were
haven't thought about
anti-Amazon. Sometimes, some people are.
No, yeah, no, you can get on Amazon. You can either get hardcover, paperback, Kindle. You can, but you can, Apple Books. Pretty much wherever most books are sold,
Okay, great.
you can
Yeah.
be able to get it. If you want a signed copy, you can go to my website. It's available. You will have the link below,
Hmm.
creatureporium.com. Um, but yeah, that's pretty much the standard channels, I guess. Just
Okay, great. Yeah,
that's
that's
probably the
perfect.
most boring answer I'm going to give you. I'm sorry.
No, it's a perfect answer because the fact that I mean it's so you have options here. People can
Oh
go
yes,
anywhere and find your book, and that's a good
yeah.
thing.
Hopefully,
Yeah, and
unless the
then
distributors hate me or something, nah, screw that guy. I don't want to carry his book. I don't know.
well, yeah, and then we'll have another podcast and we can discuss that because that's
Yeah,
a terrible, right? That would be a terrible thing. So, but
I'm all for that. You know what those bastards?
yeah, we could do that. Trust me. You just let me know if that happens, and we'll set this up again.
All
Um,
right.
So what I'm going to say, we're just going to end it with this. It's a Texas Author Con. There's going to be a ton of tables, a lot of different genres, and even if you think that you're going to a horror table, it's not primarily horror. Just remember, there's going to be other things, other aspects. I mean, my newest one is a Western, so it's a horror set, splatter Western kind of thing. Like you said, you have science fiction, but all these books are going to contain everything in there with those elements of horror. But we also have, a Western writer, and we have some guys doing military fiction, and we have poetry, and we have romance, and we have different tables for everybody. I know there's going to be some YA stuff there, and
Okay.
so you can bring kids and bring your wife and all that good stuff, or your husband, whichever one, however that works out. Sometimes the wife's the fan of the horror and the husband doesn't want anything to do with it, but now we got the military fiction guy and all that stuff.
Yeah, I was gonna say you got some like John
That's
Grisham
right.
or Michael
Yeah.
Crichton stuff, and
So there's going to be something for everybody. So there's the links down below for Andrew stuff, and then there's going to be the link for Texas Author Con. You go there and you sign up, and you can become eligible for door prizes. And that's the only way I think you can get a door prize. So you want to go sign up at the link below for Texas Author Con. So
Awesome.
I just want to say thanks for jumping on, and it was nice meeting you. This has been a great talk. I've enjoyed this discussion.
100%, brother. I am super. I can't wait to meet you, like in
Yeah, it's
person.
gonna be fun.
So thank you for having me, and it was a fantastic chat. I always feel, in the beginning of these things, like, oh God, what am I going to say? And like, I don't know why I worry about that, because as long as they're awesome like you, it's a breeze.
Well, it's
So
nice of you to say. Yeah,
awesome.
no, I really enjoyed it. This has been really great. So everybody take it easy. We'll see you next time. And I'm going to not stick the landing here at the ending. Donna normally handles the endings. So, but come check us out again at What's in the Box Horror, and we'll have another episode in a couple days.